All right, let's go to Columbus and soon to be Portland and then eventually Eugene with our good friend Steve Helwagen at 24/7 Sports. Bucknuts.com at Steve Helwagen on Twitter. You can go give him a follow there. Covering Ohio State since 1988. Long time. And he is a good friend of the program. Steve, good morning to you. You were at the airport. My first question is, as you get ready to fly out here, how much red is around you? Like, how many Buckeye fans are we expecting to enter enemy territory this weekend?
You know, that's crazy. The guy I work with, Patrick Murphy, was at the airport earlier this morning for a flight, and he said it was all red. So a lot of people leaving. This is weird. I'm on Southwest, and they actually put in a direct flight from Columbus to Portland. So that's very rare that we would have that. So I took advantage of it and was able to get on a 5-hour flight. I'm the first one at the gate. We're not leaving till 12 o'clock Eastern. So I'm sure it'll red up here in a little bit.
I'm just curious. I read some message board stuff yesterday. There seems to be a lot of confidence with Ohio State fan. Where is this just rank, you think, Steve, of destinations, places to go visit? It's a new conference now. This is a highly regarded venue for college football. How excited Buckeye fan is to go check this place out?
Yeah, I think there would have been a lot of people that would have come out in 2020 had the game been played then, but obviously because of COVID, it wasn't played, unfortunately. And now, obviously, in the years that have passed since then, Oregon and the other 3 schools on the West Coast joined the Big Ten, and now it's a nationwide conference, and that's obviously not something that any of us all grew up with. I mean, you guys were used to playing everybody in your footprint, and we're used to playing everybody in our footprint back here, but now the powers that be think this is a better way to go. So here we are talking about a Big Ten showdown with Ohio State and Oregon, and it's just kind of crazy. But, there is a great anticipation, I think, for this game. It's one of the biggest games on the entire college football schedule all season, 2 versus 3. And, and yet we've seen with Georgia and Alabama, they've both suffered losses early in the season and both probably still well in the hunt to make the college football playoffs. So while this is important, for Big Ten standings and championship game aspirations and all that, you're still in the playoff race, even with a loss in this game. So it has changed the landscape a little bit.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Steve Helwagen, our guest, good friend, 24/7 Sports, Bucknuts.com, at Steve Helwagen, covering Ohio State for a long time. Look, we all know Ohio State's loaded. That is a unbelievable roster, the way they've recruited, the way they've addressed needs in the portal. We know that this is a powerful team coming to Autzen this weekend. Where are the weaknesses? Where are the concerns in Ohio State that if they are to lose this weekend, this or that will be the reason for it?
Man, that's a great question because they've really come out of the gate strong. I don't think that they've had a game, where you'd look at it and say, oh, they were in trouble here. They didn't start the game very well in the first game against Akron. Didn't start that well against Marshall. I thought in Michigan State, but then the second quarter they blew Michigan State out of the water. And then last week they had some turnovers in the second quarter. So I'd say that's their Achilles heel, is the fact that they don't start games all that well. And if they fall behind 10, 14, 17 to nothing, whatever, how are they going to battle back? But, man, every aspect of this team's been pretty strong up until this point. Running the ball, throwing the ball, and defense have all been on point so far for Ohio State, and probably better. The offensive line was viewed as the liability. They've been one of the strengths. So that part has come through for them. They haven't had any bad injuries yet. They are full strength going into this game. So I don't know what the Achilles heel for this team would really be right now.
Steve, I'm curious, too, because their schedule hasn't been very good. I said this, I think, on Monday's show, because Oregon's schedule hasn't been that great either. It's kind of felt like both these teams have looked at their schedules, and not that they haven't prepared for the games, but they've said, we're going to out-talent these people and win. And it's been a build-up to this game. This is a very hyped game going into the year, and obviously we're here now. Is there a little bit of that with Ohio State? Because I've mentioned that on the show, too, is the slow starts. That, like, Akron was a little bit of a struggle early on. Marshall, Iowa this weekend was like 7-0. Michigan State. It just feels like they're kind of sleepwalking and then just saying, we're the Buckeyes, we're going to win by 20. Have you had that same feeling that it's just been kind of a build to this game this weekend? And to kind of, bounce off of that, the impact Chip Kelly has had as the offensive coordinator calling plays and what's looked different for Ohio State.
Yeah, you make a good point there. Their halftime adjustments have been outstanding. And in the second half of the 5 games they've played, they've outscored the opponents, I want to say 119-10. So they have just worn people down and dominated each second half that they've played. But as we said, you'd like to see them, play a little bit better in the first half, and in this case, not build a deficit to Oregon on the road in the first half, be able to come out of the gate stronger. As far as Chip Kelly, I mean, he and Ryan Day go all the way back to New Hampshire, where Chip Kelly was the head coach and Ryan Day was the starting quarterback. And he told Chip Kelly at the time he wanted to get into coaching, and Chip Kelly helped him bridge that gap and has given him several jobs and helped him find other jobs. They worked together with the NFL, with the Eagles and the 49ers. And Chip Kelly left UCLA after last season, probably making in the $5 million range, was just frustrated by the way things were going at UCLA, didn't feel that he had the support of the administration there. And you guys saw it firsthand. I mean, when Oregon played UCLA and there's nobody at the game and, no investment in the program, that's the results you get is they're hardly competitive right now in the Big Ten. So he decided he wanted to come to Ohio State, work for Ryan Day. And there's one thing both these guys don't have. That's a championship ring, either Super Bowl or college national championship. And they're hoping to check that box up, working together this year at Ohio State. Kelly's brought the great run game that we thought that we would see, and they've run the ball so well. And, of course, Day has been a master throwing the ball, putting guys in the NFL the last few years at the quarterback position. So, it's kind of the best of both worlds for them on offense.
I'm curious to ask you this, Steve, because we're going through it this week in this area where Dan Lanning's only been head coach for 2 years, but he's waiting for one of these kind of marquee wins. He had a couple of cracks at Washington last year, and they were close. And Washington was one of the best teams in the country, made it to the title game, but he came up just short. I felt like them and Ohio State were very similar last year. We knew they were two of the best teams in the country. They just had a rival that had kind of a matchup advantage over them, and you came up just short, and you had to play the rivalry game in their stadium, and that's not an easy thing to do. Now, this isn't even necessarily for you because I think you're more rational than the average fan, but for the average Ohio State fan, what is the temperature on Ryan Day this weekend, and how big would a win for him in Eugene be just to kind of quiet some of that, hey, he needs to win one of these big games eventually?
Yeah, I think that's true of a lot of head coaches out there. I mean, Kalen DeBoer, the honeymoon's now over for him at Alabama, losing to Vanderbilt. They're all up in arms about that. Ryan Day's main issue has been Michigan. Lost to him 3 years in a row, which is just, Jim Tressel didn't do that, and Urban Meyer certainly didn't do that. He never lost to him in 7 years. So, Ryan Day's got to get some of this stuff figured out. I think the rank and file fan is pretty sensible to understand that you've got a top 5 program. You're recruiting at such a high level. Your NIL money that you're paying these players is, at the top of the, best in class, so to speak. So, I mean, it's all right there, but you've got to go out on the field and prove it. And, Alabama can have all the advantages in the world, but that doesn't stop them from losing to Vanderbilt on a crazy Saturday night. So, the same principle applies here. Day really does need to have a good season this year. They need to win the Big Ten. They need to beat Michigan, and they need to go deep in the playoff. That would be tremendous for him, but I don't sense that they're going to fire him anytime soon either. And, he and Lanning are kind of on the same trajectory, young head coaches, first job, and trying to carve out their niche. And as you guys said, 0-3 for him in 2 years against Washington. And, he needs a breakthrough win just like Ryan Day does. Both coaches really do to keep their fan base behind them.
I think this might be the last one for you, Steve. We know you're getting ready for your flight out here to cover a great game. What is the matchup for you? You talked about Ohio State having slow starts, but what's the matchup specifically against these two teams that you're most interested in seeing, and what's your prediction for the game?
Well, the Big Ten was always built on running the football, and I know that this is a Big Ten game being played in Oregon, which is weird. I will say this. We know the stat going into this weekend that Big Ten teams crossing 2 time zones are 1-8. You know, we saw USC come out to Michigan and lose, Michigan go out to Washington and lose. The one outlier was Indiana beating that terrible UCLA team. You know, what does that mean? I don't know, but Indiana's pretty good. So, any rate, to me, got to run the football. And Ohio State's got Quinshon Judkins, Trayvon Henderson, a great tandem running the football. They got 200 yards combined last week against Iowa, which is almost unheard of against their great defense. That gives them the confidence they can run on anybody. So Oregon's got to stop them. And conversely, Jordan James is a hard, tough runner for Oregon. Buckeyes got to stop him. So I think the team that establishes the run stops the run. Been true in the Big Ten since the beginning of time. That's a team that's going to win this game. That's usually what happens in the Michigan game for Ohio State. The team that runs for more yards wins that game. It's something like 20 of the last 21 years.
Wow. So
that applies here too, I believe.
And your winner is?
Oh, Ohio State. I think Oregon's got a great team. And, you know, I guess, you know, they're mirror images. Good quarterbacks, great running backs, great receivers, good offensive and defensive lines. They're almost mirror images of each other. You know, who's going to turn it over? Who's going to screw up in special teams? You know, it could come down to that. But I do believe Ohio State's got the better team. And, you know, not by a wide margin. I mean, we know that. But I think they've got the better team, very physical, and going to come out running the football. We'll see how Oregon responds.
And I'm sorry for lying to you, Steve. I do have one more. How close was how close was Gabriel to becoming a Buckeye? There was intel that he may have been the first one that they were reached out to in the portal. They didn't get him. They went Howard. Was that ever really close, or was that like just a feel out and he always had his eyes set on Oregon?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, and how the timeline and all that worked out. I do believe they had Howard locked up in early December, and he kept his mouth shut until after the bowl game so the other quarterbacks wouldn't leave Ohio State. So I think they had Howard locked up probably by December 5th or 6th, and he just wrote it out with them. And, you know, you never heard anything about Howard until the day he picked Ohio State. So I'm not sure about Gabriel. I know Cam Ward from Miami was or the guy that ended up at Miami from Washington State was mentioned, but yeah, I don't know about Gabriel. I suppose that they may have kicked the tires on it, but that's the way it shook out.
Yeah, great stuff. Steve Helwagen, one of our good friends, Bucknuts.com, 24/7, covering the Buckeyes for a long time. Go give him a follow at Steve Helwagen on Twitter. Enjoy the trip, man. It should be an unbelievable atmosphere. The weather should be great. Hopefully I get a chance to pop over and say hi to you at the game on Saturday. We always appreciate the time and enjoy what should be an awesome game in Autzen Saturday night.
Yeah, fellas, take care.
Yeah, you too. There you go. Steve Helwagen, live from the Columbus airport, where how much does football matter out there? They added a direct flight from Columbus to Portland for, I'm assuming, 1 week of the year. Yes. I don't think this is going to be a normal flight that will always exist, but that's the way they roll. One added aspect to this, and he mentioned it, I'm genuinely curious how much red ends up being at the stadium on Saturday.
They travel very well.
Well, not even that, but there were stories that were circulating when season tickets were made available for Oregon last year that they had a crazy number of requests for season tickets from Ohio area codes.
People just buying
People were
tickets.
buying season tickets to Oregon and then selling all the other games just to have a ticket because you didn't know what the secondary market was going to look like, and you only have a certain allotment for your team and all that when you're a road team. So that's one caveat to keep an eye on here is how much red ends up in that damn stadium.
How many of those people
Saturday
complain
night.
about the economy and how awful it is?
Yeah, inflation's out of control, man.